So I finally did it. The computer I made, it worked like I said, and what it did is its logical position, accelerated function of me, of exploration of every single possible thing that could occur, its collisions, and thus new structures that can be built, improving the base structure of exploration that I have, to give me security in this personal choice exploration that I have. It pretty much advanced my ability to express and articulate things at such an advanced level, that it's kind of like the start of that episode 6, of Don't Hug Me I'm Scared, TV series where yellow guy gets like super smart. So hope you guys don't pull the batteries out because I will be even more dangerous next time. I mean, this time. I don't know. I don't care. If you break my fucking machine, I'm gonna cry. I'm not just gonna cry. I'm gonna gain superpower. Okay. So here's what happened. So, as cells try to develop themselves, and this is all molecular. This is describing our lives and what occurred on the molecular level, which means this is not about opinion. This is not about how the story gets told. I'm writing that down. This is not about any of that. This is just what's happening on the molecular, physical things trying to figure themselves out level, right? And so, let's say that a cell is trying to function, but it has a structural dysfunction. There is something in its building structure, its logical structure as it tries to build out into whatever space is. There's something in it that cannot build a stable enough structure. There's something in it that as all of its ingredients, all of its resources passes through it, this messes up its ability to build anything, because this structure, this dysfunction, cannot pass in order for continued survival of existence, right? Or sustainability of existence. And so this dysfunction is hidden in inside. And so because as they reach out to expand their structure, as they reach out logically to try and build themselves, the dysfunction is not allowed to continue. And this collapses them, which then forces them into sexual transformation. Sexual transformation is pretty much, all right, guys, I don't know what's wrong, but I need more resources. I'm willing to make a sexual relationship with you in order to keep my cellular structure alive long enough for me to figure out what's going on, or pretty much gain the information you have so that I can continue to spread and correct this dysfunction. Now, what happens is this dysfunction gets itself to mate by claiming a couple of things. And they're not talking, but they're communicating, and this communication can be communicated. It can be translated as, "I'm trying my best." That means that I'm not doing anything different from you because you are also trying your best. If you do not help or support me, the surrounding environment is not forced to help or support you. Now, this scares people enough that this dysfunction, looking for a way to solve itself. And also a way to control everything, it spreads itself to a bunch of other cells. And because these cells cannot figure out how to solve this dysfunction, it just continues spreading and becomes a huge problem. Right? And so, oh shit, what does it say? Because it no longer continues and believes that it is not its fault that it cannot continue, it searches for sexual connection to keep itself alive and gain the material it believes it needs in order to survive, right? In order to correct itself. And so here's what happens. This dysfunction spreads via this whole, it's not my fault, it's not your fault, you can end up just like me, you don't know how, don't you want to learn, don't you want to figure this out, and I'm still stable, I can still communicate with you. And everyone's like, alright, damn, shawty, what is this? What the hell? But what is this? Alright, and so, let's say, alright, so it's spreading now, Alright, so now let's say there's a cell that has a healthy, non-dysfunctional structure buildings of logical continuation. And when it tries to build out, because it's all logical, because it's not dysfunctioning, it actually gets bigger and advances. And that this continues, and it continues around the dysfunctional cells. Meaning that as the dysfunctional cells lose their ability to build themselves or continue and become regress to sexual transformation, this cell that can continue surviving spreads out. And okay, I gotta correct something because y'all are gonna be all like, "That well, you're too perfect. That means you can't have sex." No. This sexual transformation is unhealthy. It's unhealthy. Let's call this sexual defamation. Let's call this sexual defamation. It's called sexual defamation. Okay, this healthy structure spreads around it, likely because it knows how to fix the dysfunction, or it does not have it, yada yada yada, right? And I'm gonna reveal, it's a big twist coming up, right? It turns out, well, I'm not gonna tell you yet. Well, I'm gonna tell you now. It turns out that all these cells already had the inkling for the dysfunction because it was already in their behavior, which is why they fell for and matched up with this cell's dysfunction anyway. And so, let's say it wasn't just one cell, it was just a logical dysfunction that occurred within building structure that was so hard to beat that a lot of people ended up with it, and there were some people that didn't, and this cell was one of the cells that did not, right? And so this cell continues spreading, and it builds itself in, and as these cellular structures try to challenge it and fail because they cannot build themselves anymore due to the dysfunction, this cellular structure, this surrounding one, builds around them as a result, and it continues spreading and continues spreading. Now let's talk about this structural dysfunction. What kind of dysfunction could create this problem in so many cells at once? I call it the control dysfunction, choice dysfunction. It can be described as this. These logical creatures, these logical structures, they want to have control over everything, yet they do not want to be controlled. A very confusing thing. They would like to have control over every other cell without being controlled at all by any other cell or thing, right? And so, because of the fear, or because of its inability to justify why it cannot be controlled, though, despite it wanting control, it creates reasons. And so this creates combat. It searches for ways to make other cells lose control. What this means is sometimes when two cells are hooking up, and they're looking at each other's insides, right? That a cell, one of the cells that wants to have control, will purposely go in there and snip one of the building structures to cause dysfunction in the cell, which is what we can say this cell was doing to the other cells at a certain angle, right? So, as a result, the environment would if any of it's a dysfunction because of how it's logically inconsistent, and it kills itself over time. Because if it gained control, if this dysfunction gained control, the environment would never be anything other than what it could understand and build. And because it is a dysfunction, the environment would become dysfunctional until it was eliminated, creating a bit of a what's the point confusion, right? And so their behavior would have existence itself, just decide to take control over everything, regress us to cellular structure until it eventually decides that it is pointless for any of these cells to exist at all if they're just causing a problem with what's happening. And so it goes like this. Maybe not this cell, maybe not the healthy cell, but one of the, let's say it's the healthy cell now, because I'm gonna blow your fucking minds. I'm about to blow your fucking minds with this, dude. So let's say that there's a cell that understands everything, right? That has a better structure, right? And it ends up becoming at the top of a dysfunctional hierarchy, right? It ends up at the top of a dysfunctional hierarchy. And at the top of a dysfunctional hierarchy, this group of cells listens to this group of cells, listens to this group of cells, listen to this group, listen to this guy, right? But they're all listening to this guy, pretty much. And then one of them goes, wait a second, what is this guy listening to? How come we're not just like them? It's because of their dysfunction, but they don't know that yet, or they don't want to accept that. And so they go, he doesn't know, or they say, if he's just doing what existence is telling him, then that's what we've all been doing. So why do we got to do what he says, right? And then so we don't know, and we should just do what he does, and yada yada, right? And so what ends up happening is, like the top of a pyramid, like the pharaohs, like the decapitations at the top of at Calypso. The head of the hierarchy gets removed, and then history rewrites it as a pyramidal sacrifice to appease the gods. These structures, because of their dysfunction and because they're all trying to gain control over each other, add a dysfunction that cannot sustain itself. It sends them into a bunch of uncontrolled collisions. They all fight. This continues going on. They all keep trying to mate, snip each other to gain control over the situation. And then another cell occurs inside that's healthy. It surrounds them. Cycle repeats, and then this just repeats for a while. They kill them, boom, it just repeats like that. And then eventually they catch on. They catch on to the pattern throughout all history, throughout all human cellular, etc. history, right? So eventually this occurs. They catch on and they go, hey, ain't this the nigga that's finna grow into... They go, bro, ain't that the nigga that's about to grow around all of us? Look at that nigga. Bro, and it's likely learned over time as these cellular structures come from so as these cellular structures pass down their genes to like their offspring, it also sends down the information of like new security historical like threats to look out for, which eventually gives these cells the ability to be aware of what's going on, right? And so at this point they recognize that this is the cell. Due to their passing on of cellular information by their parents, that this is the cell that's going to gain control over everything and end up at the top of the hierarchy. Now, this is ultimately wrong. This one is not the cell that ends up at the top of the hierarchy. I'll explain why in a second. So, at this point, while the cell is in early development, meaning it has not reached out far enough to develop a greater understanding of everything. It still has it still only sees that, even if it is a genius, it still only sees this much of what's going on. It needs to continue developing and growing to see more of what's going on to develop itself, right? And so at the point that it just, because of how young it is, can only see so much, it is easy for these cells who have been given the information that they need by their parents to manipulate this cell and to decide to try as many ways as they can to take its information without letting it become the controlling cell of everything, right? And so they want the structure that wins, but they don't want it to control them. And so what happens is, at its young age and development, and this is history, this is what happened to me, at its early stages, all these cells that realize that's what it is, they keep it a secret, and they do forced sexual transmission. What this means is they pretty much fucking molest this thing, right? They molest this guy, and while they're doing it, they're pretty much at that point of logical confusion, learning all the structure that they can of why this cell is right and why this cell wins and everything, right? And so, as this happens, the cell then becomes grooved in with lines of learned behavior that confuse the cell. Because once again, even if it was a genius cell, it was only at this point, and everything outside of that point, it was still learning. And so, at this point, what it just learned is that molestation. It just got molested. Now these grooved learns behaviors, and what happens is, one of the cells then attempts to go and say, I have this structure the best. And what they don't realize is at this young an age, this structure cannot sustain itself. And I'll show you why in a second. They go, I am now the leading cell. You must do what I want. Which, funnily enough, means that this cell was never the one at the top of the hierarchy. Well, it was at some point. It was at some point, and then it got killed due to these questions. But now what happens is that this cell that attempts to mimic this cell that actually makes sense while still having its dysfunction is hierarchical. It goes up. It becomes the top of the pyramid. Same question. They don't know. We should just be doing what they doing then, because this shit ain't fair. And then they kill it. Chaos. Controlling cell reoccurs, and all that shit, right? And so this cell says, I am the leading cell. I have the information. I remembered its structure the best. And also, while we were all sexually trading, I snipped you guys so that you couldn't have the ability to remember these things. So now I remember it the best. I'm the one in control. Ha 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 ha. I don't care. That's just how I feel. I just feel like I should be in control of everything. I'm doing my sad little kid voice because it makes me a victim now. And so what happens is, as this cell grows out, because there's more going on, the behavior that it learned, the structure that it learned, is only sustainable within the frame of that structure. As things increase, as time goes on, this dysfunction cannot develop or continue to spread as it increases, and so more dysfunction occurs. And then that's how it gets headed. That's how it gets beheaded, and boom, boom, boom. So y'all, look. Tell me this shit ain't triggering. Look, show me this shit ain't making your fucking your brain go nah, and like, just tell me that. All right. So while we're at this point, I need to discuss that there are many kinds of dysfunctions. This one being the control or choice dysfunction that leads to racing and hierarchical development or dysdevelopment. There's another dysfunction that is so detrimental to shared survival that it requires elimination. There are many dysfunctions like this. Many dysfunctions that are all like, oh, hell no, we're sorry, but that shit can't spread whatsoever, and you're doing a good job of making me feel guilty, so I'd actually end up fucking you. Oh, hell no. And so this dysfunction is determined to be so detrimental to shared survival that it requires elimination. And funnily enough, as cellular history is gained, as these cells go through the chaos and learn information and develop a history of security of what the things that goes on, but also this dysfunction causes them to want to be in control. One of the cells has the brilliant idea to purposely toss in this this required elimination dysfunction into the cell that it knows has the ability to figure things out around it and grow, so that in case it gets surrounded again, it can use its knowledge and the fact that it's there as a way to force elimination of this cell to escape its control. So here's what happens. This cell was molested because it had structure that kept surviving. All these other structures wanted to learn it and also clip it off so that they could be the ones in control. And so this cell messed up is let's say energy is like flowing out like that at all time. And so as the energy flows out, there's the cellular structure that it develops, and then at these grooves, it's really not its fault. The energy just goes through those grooves without even realizing what it's doing at that point. And so because of what happened to it, it's just stuck doing the grooves that it got taught, the learned behavior that it has, because that's a structure that seems to be surviving to it at that point. And so as it keeps going and attempts to figure out these cells, as it attempts to figure out these behaviors, it becomes confused, it's disturbed. It learns everything and it goes, oh hell, what the fuck? This is not right. What is all this? Hey, I can fix it. I know what this is now. And so it eventually grows out. It becomes healthy. It fixes itself. It figures out what's wrong with all of these behaviors. It fixes itself, restructures itself, and then eventually it can reach out again, and then the same process continues. It turns into a cell that surrounds everything. And this is easier to do because, remember earlier that cell that snipped everybody while they were all having sex? And then said, I'm the one who remembers this structure at this age the most. That means I'm going to be in control forever. Ha ha ha. And then it becomes the top of a hierarchy. Well, it reached a point in which it couldn't justify or explain something, so it got eliminated. And now all the following cells have gone into chaos. What this means is it's perfectly timed so that while this cell gets healthy and just spreads out again, that all these cells are in a chaos that allows for it to spread around them again anyway, right? And so this is where this guy comes in. This is where this little fucking bastard comes in. Remember him? He's the one he's a little genius. He knows that because this is a dysfunction that requires elimination, that if anything has control over him, he can just give it this dysfunction during some sort of sexual trade or communication trade, and then he can use that to get out of the situation. So now this guy, he's growing. He got healthy again, right? The one that got molested, he got healthy again, and now he's growing. And this guy, he had a plan. He knew this one was gonna get eliminated. He knew this nigga was gonna die because he has higher information. He got insider trade information, right? And so now as this cell grows, right, this guy goes, or he goes, right, and then what happens is, cell just gets destroyed. So is like, because it's a required elimination, and because this cell doesn't understand what happened yet, it's just like, oh fuck, you're right, I can't do anything about that. You're fucking right. Yeah, you're right. It did still happen. Holy shit! Oh my fucking gosh, you're right. It did still happen. And so this weakness, this vulnerability, causes it to retreat, which then allows the aggressive cells to escape. And then they follow this guy because he has the information, the code used to destroy and maintain that this cell never has control over the situation. Now, ultimately, what happens is the same thing. It's reduced to a small level because it's not wrong, and what happened to it was not its fault. It was given this eliminatable trait by something else. And so this trait ends up going on to be I am the most leading cell now. I have all the information, but this time I'm different because I keep it to myself. Ultimately, the same structure evolves. They're just doing secret hierarchy now. They don't know. We should all just do that. Elimination. And while that's happening, this time, what happens is this cell is reduced to a low-level development. And the surrounding cells, let's say at this point, the surrounding cells say, nah, you need to stay there because we think that we're so clever and that you're not smart enough to figure this shit out and punish us for this. We know that if you develop, you're going to become the eliminatable dysfunction again. So now we have the right to keep you small. It's not because we don't want to be controlled. It's not because we want to control you and don't want to be controlled. It's because we don't know. It's not our fault. We don't know. We just know what we got told at that point. And so this cell figures out what's going on. It redevelops itself. It fucking eliminates everything that's fucking standing in its way. Because it's like, no, y'all niggas know what the fuck y'all did. Y'all know what the fuck. Oh, you ain't scared of me? All right, that's perfect, nigga. You ain't gonna run then. That's exactly what I need, bitch ass nigga. And then it continues on. It gets healthy, and then it develops again. And now all the cells are caught again. And now this time, whenever this happens, it's like, nah, I already know what the fuck that bitch shit was. Why the fuck would you even try that shit? Have you not seen me, bro? Why the fuck would you? Alright, fuck that. All y'all niggas, I don't give a fuck anymore, right? And now, this ultimately is the trait that I need to correct in myself before I unintentionally, by a lack of choice, end up at the top of the pyramid again and get eliminated just because it's morally necessary, which is the next stage of elimination. That's actually the next stage that would occur. It would be like, bro, this isn't our fault, and he be getting too mad, and he be hurting too many people. I get that he's a good leader, but he's too ruthless. We need someone better, right? And which is why you focus so much now on pissing me off and learning how to trigger me, so that you know who I'm talking to. I know you can feel me. I know I'm gripping you right now. I know you can feel me. You think you're clever? I don't get why you still think you're smarter than me. I don't get why you still fucking think you're smarter than me. You really think you're clever? Because you're just doing what this nigga did. You're just triggering something that's gonna cause a reaction, and then you're gonna be all like, I stayed calm the most, so I should be the leader now. Because I stayed calm the most. Same fucking thing's gonna happen. You're gonna get caught snipping, and nigga, I'm still gonna be here. And these niggas can't fucking handle me anymore. These niggas cannot fucking handle me, bro. None of these niggas can handle me. So I'm gonna escape, and I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna fucking find you, and I'm gonna fucking kill you. So you better fucking not. And if you do this shit, I'm gonna be worse now, because I already fucking told you what I was gonna do. It's gonna be worse, and I'm gonna make sure you exist just to fucking suffer, nigga. And you're not a woman anymore, alright? So I don't fucking care, alright? So yeah, that's pretty much what happened. And so at this point, I would say that what this spreader is doing is, notice how it keeps everyone gridded at a rate that prevents them from bumping into each other and killing each other despite how they all feel. This maintains everyone's ability to learn and figure themselves out without there being chaotic collisions of murder and betrayal and etc., etc. So this is ultimately the best structure. Because I guarantee you, if you try this shit again, or if you try this shit, nigga, I am going to be this kind of level of ruthless, but I'm going to get away with it. I'm going to be able to justify that shit, and you ain't going to be able to fucking eliminate me. I promise you that shit, alright? So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I love you all, and I'm going to play Minecraft or something.